Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, class 8, welcome to the physics class. Now we are going to discuss the question answers of lesson number 2, measurement. First, we will discuss the short answer questions. Now, question number 1 is, how will you determine the density of a regular solid? So, as we know that density is mass per unit volume of a substance, or D equals to m upon V, what we have to do, we have to find out the mass and volume of that regular solid. Then only we will be able to determine the density of that solid. So, to find out or to determine the density of a regular solid, what we have to do, we have to find out the mass, and the mass is measured by a beam balance. Then volume is measured by using the formula. There are some formulas to measure the volume of regular solids. So mass is measured by a beam balance and volume is measured by using the formula. Then density is measured by using the formula D equals to m upon V. Now, question number 2 is, why is water less dense as a solid than as a liquid? So, why is water less dense when it is in its solid form, that is ice, than in its liquid form? As we know that any substance in its solid form is more dense. As we know that in solids the molecules or the particles are very tightly packed, they are very closely packed. So the substance in its solid form is more dense. But here the case is different in case of water. Here water is different from most of the substances. It is less dense as a solid than as a liquid. This is because its particles, they move apart slightly on freezing. On freezing they move slightly apart. So now volume increases and density decreases. So it becomes less dense in its solid form than in its liquid form. As we know that the density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter, but the density of water when it is in its solid form, or the density of ice is 0.917 gram per cubic centimeter. So water in its solid form is less dense than in its liquid form. This is because when it freezes, its particles move slightly apart. So volume increases, and volume increases, the density decreases. As we know that density is inversely proportional to volume. Now question number 3 is, state the law of flotation. So what is the law of flotation? When an object floats in a liquid, what happens? The weight of the liquid displaced by the immersed part of that object is equal to the total weight of the object. This is the law of flotation. What is the law of flotation? When an object floats in a liquid, the weight of the liquid which is displaced by its immersed part is equal to the total weight of that object. This is the law of flotation. Now let's discuss long answer questions. Now here question number 1 is, how will you determine the density of an irregular solid heavier than water using a Eureka can? So here there is an activity 3 in your book on page number 22. So you have to write this full activity and you have to draw the figure also. So according to this activity, what is the aim? It is to measure the density of an irregular solid heavier than water using a Eureka can. Now the things needed are a Eureka can, a beaker, a beam balance, water, a stone, a piece of thread and a measuring cylinder. Now what is the method? First, measure the mass of a stone by a beam balance. Let its mass be m gram. Then place a beaker under the spout of a Eureka can. Pour water into the Eureka can till the water starts overflowing through the spout. When the water has stopped dripping, remove the beaker. Now empty the beaker, dry it and place it again under the spout. Now tie the stone with the thread and immerse it into the Eureka can. Water displaced by the stone overflows through the spout and collects in the empty beaker. When the stone is fully immersed in water and the water stops dripping, remove the beaker, pour the collected water from the beaker to a measuring cylinder. Then note down the reading of the lower meniscus of the measuring cylinder and let it be VML. Then what is the observation? Volume of water in measuring cylinder equals to VML and volume of water displaced by the stone equals to the volume of the stone, or VML equals to V cubic centimeter, as volume of water which is displaced by the stone is equal to the volume of the stone. So VML equals to V cubic centimeter, as we know that 1 ml equals to 1 cubic centimeter. Hence volume of the stone is V cubic centimeter. Now to calculate the density, the formula D equals to, or density of the stone equals to mass of the stone upon volume of the stone, or D equals to m upon V gram per cubic centimeter. By this the density will be calculated, and what is the conclusion? The conclusion is the density of an irregular solid can be measured by measuring its mass and volume using a Eureka can. Now question 1 is having one more part, that is, can you determine the density of an irregular solid lighter than water by displacement method? In part 1 you have to determine the density of an irregular solid which is heavier than water using a Eureka can, and in next part you have to determine the density of an irregular solid which is lighter than water by displacement method. If yes, how? Now here in second part you have to determine the density of an irregular solid which is lighter than water using displacement method. This answer is also on page number 22 after activity 3. Now here you have to measure the density of an irregular solid lighter than water, for example cork, by using displacement method. So here we are using cork, it is lighter than water. So first you have to measure the mass m of the cork by using a physical balance. Then you have to repeat the steps 2 to 8 of activity 3, because here we are using stone also along with the cork, because cork is lighter than water, so it will float in water, it will not be easily immersed. So to immerse it in water, it is to be tied to a heavy object like stone. So here we have to find out the volume of the stone also, and to find the volume of the stone we have to repeat the steps of activity 3 from 2 to 8, and they are as follows. Place a beaker under the spout of a Eureka can. Pour water into the Eureka can till the water starts overflowing through the spout. When the water has stopped dripping, remove the beaker, empty the beaker, dry it and place it again under the spout. Now tie the stone with a thread and immerse it into the Eureka can. Water displaced by the stone overflows to the spout and collects in the empty beaker. When the stone is fully immersed in water and the water stops dripping, remove the beaker, pour the collected water from the beaker to a measuring cylinder and note down the reading of the lower meniscus of the measuring cylinder and let it be VML. So this is the water displaced by the stone. Volume of the water displaced by the stone is VML and it is equal to the volume of the stone. So volume of the stone equals to VML equals to V cubic centimeter, or we can say that the volume of the stone is V cubic centimeter, as we know that 1 ml equals to 1 cubic centimeter. So VML equals to V cubic centimeter. Here we have found out the volume of the stone and we have also found out the mass of the cork. Mass of the cork is M and volume of the stone is V cubic centimeter. Now what we have to do? Tie the cork along with the stone and gently immerse the stone in water, because now we have to find out the volume of the cork. We know the mass of the cork, but we don't know the volume of the cork. We only know the volume of the stone. So now to find out the volume of the cork, we have to tie it along with the stone and now we have to gently immerse the stone in water. Now when the cork is completely immersed, note down the final reading of water level and let it be V1 ml. Volume of the water which is displaced by the stone is VML and volume of the water which is displaced by the stone and the cork together is V1 ml. Now to find out the density of the cork, we have to use the formula D equals to mass upon cork upon mass of cork upon volume of cork. So volume of cork equals to volume of water displaced. And what is the volume of water displaced? That is V1 minus V ml or V1 minus V cubic centimeter. So what is the density of the cork? Density of the cork D equals to M upon V1 minus V gram per cubic centimeter. Now question number 2 is the density of a substance is maximum in its solid state, intermediate in its liquid state and minimum in its gaseous state. Explain. So many times we have discussed this thing that matter is made up of very small particles which are called molecules. So according to kinetic theory of matter, in solids the molecules are very closely packed and the intermolecular space is very small. Because they are very tightly packed, so intermolecular space is negligible. The molecules are compact, while in liquids the intermolecular spaces are more than solids. That is, the molecules of liquids are loosely packed as compared to solids, and in gases the intermolecular spaces are much greater than solids and liquids. That is, the molecules of gases, they are very loosely packed, or we can say that they are free to move in any direction and they occupy all the space which is available to them. So we can say that a substance is highly dense in solid state, less dense in liquid state and least dense in gaseous state. Thus the density of a substance in its solid state is maximum, intermediate in its liquid state and minimum in its gaseous state. Question 3 is, which are two forces which act on the object when it is immersed in a liquid, and how does their magnitude determine that the object will float or sink in the liquid? So first part is, which two forces act on the object when it is immersed in a liquid. So the two forces are the buoyant force which is exerted by the liquid on the object and it acts in vertically upward direction and it has the tendency to move the object up, and this force or buoyant force is equal to the weight of the liquid which is displaced by the immersed part of the object. Second is the weight of the object which acts in vertically downward direction, and it has a tendency to sink the object. So two forces are, one is the buoyant force which is exerted by the liquid on the object in vertically upward direction, and it is equal to the weight of the liquid displaced by the immersed part of the object, and it has a tendency to move the object up. And second is the weight of the object which is acting in vertically downward direction, and it has a tendency to sink the object. Now whether the object will float or sink, it depends upon the magnitude of these two forces which are weight and buoyant force. Now there are some cases. In case number 1, when the weight of the object W is greater than the buoyant force Fb, what happens? If the weight is greater than the buoyant force, the object will sink in the liquid, because when the density of the object is greater than the density of the liquid, the object will sink. And in second case, when the weight of the object is less than the buoyant force, then what happens? The object will float partially above the surface of the liquid. Some part will be above the surface of the liquid and it will float because its weight is less than the buoyant force. So some of the part of that object will be above the surface of liquid. And this happens when the density of object is less than the density of the liquid. And in case 3, when the weight of the object is equal to the buoyant force, then the object will float in the liquid just below the surface of the liquid. Now the weight and buoyant force are equal, so the object will float, but it will be just below the surface of the liquid. And this happens when the density of the object is equal to the density of the liquid. So here we have discussed 3 cases. Whether the object will float or sink, it depends upon the magnitude of these two forces, which are weight and buoyant force. So in first case, what happens? When the weight of the object is greater than the buoyant force, the object will sink in the liquid, because the density of the object is greater than the density of the liquid, so it will sink. In second case, when the weight of the object is less than the buoyant force, it will float, but it will float partially above the surface of the liquid. Some of its part will be above the surface. It can be seen, some of the part can be seen above the surface of the liquid. And this happens when the density of the object is less than the density of the liquid. And in third case, when the weight of the object is equal to the buoyant force, what happens? The object will float. Still it will float in the liquid, but it will not be partially above, but it will be just below the surface of the liquid. And this happens when the density of the object is equal to the density of the liquid. 4 is give reason for the following. So you have to give reason for the following questions. Now part 1 is icebergs floating in seawater are dangerous for ships. Now what are icebergs? They are huge masses of ice floating in seawater. Now huge masses of ice, they float in seawater. This is because the density of ice is 0.917 gram per cubic centimeter. As we know, water in its solid form is less dense than in its liquid form. So ice floats in water because its density is less than 1 gram per cubic centimeter. The density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter, and the density of ice is 0.917 gram per cubic centimeter. But the question is, why are icebergs dangerous for ships? So they float with only a very small part above the surface of seawater. That is, they float in water with 1/12 of their volume above the surface of water and 11/12 of their volume is under the water. Most of their volume is underwater, hidden, and only 1/12 is above the surface of water. So, due to their non visibility, they are dangerous for ships because they float in water with 1/12 of their volume above surface of water and 11/12 of their volume under the water. So they are dangerous for ships due to their non visibility. Now part B is a submarine can float like an ordinary ship and sink when required. So it can float also and it can sink also. How is it possible? So it has two large ballast tanks, and when these tanks are filled with water, its average density becomes greater than the density of seawater and it sinks into the water. And whenever it has to rise to the surface, compressed air is pumped into these tanks, and that air forces the water out. As a result, the average density of submarine becomes less and it rises up. Part C is a balloon filled with hydrogen or helium rises in the air. As we know that gases like hydrogen and helium, they are less dense. Their density is less than that of the air. So when these gases are filled in a balloon, the balloon rises up in the air because the weight of the air which is displaced by the inflated balloon becomes greater than the weight of the gas filled balloon, because the gases which are inside the balloon, they are lighter than air. So the air which is displaced by this inflated balloon is more dense, hence the balloon rises up. The buoyant force which is acting on the balloon, it becomes greater than the weight of the balloon, so the balloon rises and floats in air. Now part D is an iron nail sinks in water, but a huge ship made of iron and steel floats in water. What is the reason? Iron nail is so small and ship is so huge. So how is it possible that iron nail sinks in water, but the huge ship which is made of iron and steel, it floats in water? So the reason is that iron nail is more dense. It is denser than water. Density of iron nail is greater than the density of water. So being small, it sinks in water because its density is greater than the density of water. But in spite of its size, huge size, the ship which is made up of iron and steel, it floats in water because it is designed in such a way that it has a large volume and it has many empty spaces inside it. So due to these empty spaces and due to the large volume, its density becomes less than the density of water, because when as we know that volume is and density, they are inversely proportional to each other. When volume is more, density is less, and when density is more, volume is less. So when volume is more, density will be reduced. So it is designed in such a way that it has a large volume and it has large empty spaces inside it. So this reduces the average density of the ship in comparison to the density of water. So the ship floats in water.